All right, let's talk about the quest for frogs. Something that we've done a bunch of times with quest for frogs. Okay, so let's talk about questing for frogs. I already did it, so it's in here. And I have a very special truck that I recently started using to test track, which kind of I find to be one of the most frustrating things I've ever gotten is this guy right here. I believe it's an Atlas. But this Atlas truck has got these Stream low profile wheels. Super thin. Let's compare that to this guy. See how much narrower they are? They're almost like half. And a lot of times I'll use this guy and he'll fall down in here and derail. But here's what we got so far. I put them on here. Whoops. Yeah, he derails easy, especially with no weight on him, but runs through our frog. Nice. We haven't like done any filing or anything or sanding on our frog yet. Runs nice across. Okay, so what about the questing for frogs? Well, let's take a look. Let's get in here. Let's get right up in here. All right, now. All right, there's a frog. So, what I want to point out to you is when we quest for frogs, what we're really saying is don't make frogs in advance. And I know that's the way, like when you're doing fast tracks, you have a jig for that so that you file them and then they're ready. You can make those in advance. And that's the way I started out learning it. And as time went on, I learned a couple different ways. But when we quest for frogs, what we're doing is the angle between this rail and this rail is, how we file this down so we get some points that they come together. And I have yet to fill that in with solder so you can still see what we did. So what I did was I first took this rail here and took it over to the grinder and I shaved it almost kind of randomly, but I just eyeballed it. I kind of based on experience, and I ground it back to a wedge-shaped point. All right, then I lined it up on the paper perfectly. All right, and then building top down, I put in this rail first, back here, and I came down and started putting in all the things I could gauge. And this was one of the things I could gauge was this guy. So I put him in here and I lined his point up just perfect with the paper. Perfect with the paper. All right, then I went ahead and I built this rail. This rail I could gauge. So I put that in there. Then this one, I figured out, you know what? It doesn't really matter. It just has to follow the paper and then get to a spot where it basically matches the paper. Now, to quest for frogs, when we took it over there to the spot where it's going to go, and knowing that see how far off this is from the paper, that's what I needed to have. I basically cut a piece of rail, approximately the length that I needed, and then I went ahead and I made a point on them. Now, one of the things about doing this is on the bottoms of the rails, the foot of the rail, here's rail, okay, this bottom foot here, you got to file that back a little bit in here to make this work. And I also do it on the wing rails. Okay, I file that foot back so everything fits in there nice. And this one I didn't do enough and I didn't bend it out far enough, so I had to take my cutoff wheel and grind a little bit, but that's okay. Now, then what do? Is I lined it up over there and I soldered it over there on the layout just into the first couple positions. But basically I slide it in until I get what appears to be a good match where this rail and this rail, they kind of line up, and they do. They line up, okay? Then I lock it down. That's questing for frogs. I had to go back and forth with this guy until I got him just right to where I can see a line across here to where the inside of the flange is going to go through here. And it's going to hit the frog, and it's going to go right through. Now, I wonder if this works with a DD40 truck. I don't know. We haven't tried that yet. The DD40 trucks are pretty wide. Yeah. So I got to do some filing here because it's too narrow, and the place I got to file is going to be right in there. Because it's for that truck, it's just a little bit too much. But then let's take our old SDP40 truck. Let's see if he makes it. He's only got 3 axles. Maybe he'll have a better time. I can feel tiny resistance, but I doubt he would derail on this. I can feel a tiny resistance. So I'll get in there with the file, and I will start filing this until I get the feel that I want. That's how you quest for frogs. Versus the other way of doing this first. When this is exactly right and all tuned up and everything in exactly the right way so all of our trucks make it through with no problem. Because like this guy, no problem. He'll go right through there. When I get it the way I want it, and I lock it down. And questing for frogs, where we go on our quest to get the perfect frog lined up, is way easier. And once that's filled in with solder, it'll look just fine. You won't know. More importantly, it'll be super reliable because it'll be all lined up. And so I just got a little touch up to do with the grinding wheel in a couple spots. We'll be good to go. Add in some guardrails and stuff. And then we got to do the wiring. We got to wire this thing up to be one piece. Because right now, the way it is set up over there, there's plastic rail joiners here, here, and here. I'm thinking of eliminating somebody here. I don't know who. Probably going to be these two. No, probably going to be these two guys are going to get eliminated. I don't know how we're going to do that yet. We're going to figure that out. Maybe I can't eliminate them. I don't remember exactly how. But I also want to put on my feeder wires before I install it. So that's something that we got to do. That's something we got to think about and plan for. Because then we can do the feeder wires like we did before from the PC board ties and down using that solid core wire, and it'll be great and it will be awesome. But so far this thing looks like it's going to just drop right into place with just a tiny bit of trimming used, and then we're going to be good to go. It may be that the wiring is too complex over there because that is connected to a toggle switch on the control panel. I have to think about it when I get under there and get after the wiring, and we'll take a look at that in a little while. First, let's get this thing powered.